Okay, so today's learning target is I can put an equation in slope-intercept form, and I can graph a line using slope-intercept form. Alright, so first, slope-intercept form is just a way that or a form that we can write an equation in that will give us information quickly. So slope-intercept form is sort of an equation, but it's always an equation where y is by itself on one side, and then there's an x and a number, maybe, on the other side. Okay, so I get y is equal to mx plus b, where the m and the b both represent numbers, m being the slope, as you'll remember from a previous lesson, and b is the y-intercept of the line. Okay, remember, slope, again, is the rate of change of the line, and the y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. All right, now actually putting an equation in slope-intercept form. So if I'm looking at this one, y equals 3x. If I wanted that in exact slope-intercept form, I would rewrite it as y equals 3x. Well, there's no plus b's, right? But I can always add 0. So I'm going to put the plus 0 there to remind myself that there is a number there in slope-intercept form. All right, now the slopes I'm going to do in red. Okay, remember, slope is the m, the number that is on or with the x. Okay, so it partners up with the x. The y-intercept, so in this case, my slope is 3. Now, if you wanted to, you could write it in fraction form and be 3 over 1 to help remind yourself it's rise over run, so the rise is 3 and the run is 1, but you don't have to. Okay, so do my y-intercepts in green. Okay, so my y-intercept b is the 0, so the y-intercept of my graph crosses the y-axis at 0. All right, so we've got the equation y equals negative 3/5 plus 2/5 x. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite that in slope-intercept form. Remember, the x comes first, but the number doesn't change, and neither does its sign. So it's positive 2/5 x minus 3/5. Exactly. All right. Okay, so slope in red again. Got 2/5. It's the number with the x, and my b or y-intercept is negative 3/5. All right, now the next one is not exactly in a form that I would like. I've got 4x plus 8y is equal to 24. Now the problem is that before I can find slope, y has to be by itself. So I need to solve this equation, put it in function form based on the y. So solve for y. Okay, so I need to get rid of this positive 4x, which I'm going to subtract. Subtract 4x from both sides. Remember, I can't combine these two. This does not have an x, and this does. If you need a reminder of that, instead of writing it right underneath, write it off to the side here. Okay, so I get 8y is equal to negative 4x plus 24. And then to solve for y, I'm going to divide both sides by 8 and reduce what I can. So everything by 8. Okay, so that goes away, and I get y is equal to negative 4 over 8. Divide both sides by 4 to reduce. Get negative 1/2 x. Then 24 divided by 8 is 3. Okay, so I get negative 1/2 x plus 3. Again, I'm looking for my slope. So remember, the slope is just the number in front of the x. That's my m. So my m in this case is negative 1/2. Then my b, y-intercept, positive 3. All right. So now how can we use this to graph? Okay, so the first thing, if I want to graph the equation 5x plus y is equal to 3 using slope-intercept form, first thing I got to do is get it into slope-intercept form since it's not there. So we get our equation into slope-intercept form. Alright, so we got 5x plus y is equal to 3. Now to get this in slope-intercept form, we've got to solve for the y. So I'm going to subtract 5x from both sides. Okay, so y is equal to negative 5x plus 3. Okay, now the y is by itself, so now I have to identify my slope. So next thing is identify slope. Or m. Okay, so it's the number in front of the x, so my slope m is negative 5. I'm going to go ahead and write that as negative 5 over 1 to remind myself that slope is technically rise over run, right? So the last thing I want to do is get my y-intercepts. Okay, so get the y-intercept, that's 3. So in this case, my b is 3. All right, now graphing it, the first thing you do is plot the y-intercepts. Okay, and when I say y-intercept of 3, I really mean the point on the y-axis. Well, every point on the y-axis, x, is 0, right? Because I don't have to go over or at all to get to the y-intercept, right? I got to be on the y-axis. So my x is 0 and my y is 3. So it's really telling me to plot the point 0, 3. So I go up 3 and plot my y-intercept, right? So now I'm going to use the slope. Okay, so from that point, I know that every subsequent point, the slope has to be, or I'm sorry, it has to be go down 5, okay, and over 1. So I'm going to count from this point. I need to go down 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and to the right 1. Just remember, x or y in the negative direction goes down, and x in the positive direction goes to the right. Okay, so down 5 and over 1. I'm going to plot my next point. And I want to plot a bunch of points. Okay, so plot it until you can't plot anymore. So down 5, over 1. And now I know I'm going to go off my graph so we don't have to plot it anymore this way. And remember, slope can also be written and do the opposite. So if another option for my slope is I can multiply both the top and the bottom by negative 1, and it will be the same slope, right? So I could also have positive 5 over negative 1. Okay, so you could also have gone up 5, 4, 5, and to the left 1, and made a point. Right, so once you've got all your points, they should be lined up, and you just draw in your line. Okay, so my second step for graphing is use the slope to create more points. Because that's how your graph is changing. That's how you can use it to create more points. All right, so that's all I need you to do for today. You can try the practice if you want to, but we're going to try them very first thing when you walk into class. So please write down any questions that you have about today's lesson and make sure to ask them before we start tomorrow.